All right, we're here on what is it? My birthday,
Your birthday.
May 31st, 2019. We're here with my mom, Susan Ann Compton Carpenter, and I just want to do, we're all just do a little perspective like my uncle did about how she grew up and things like that. So, first of all, thanks for coming, Mom.
You're welcome.
So, just can you tell your full name, please, and where you were born?
Susan Ann Compton Carpenter,
And where were you born?
Metropolis, Illinois.
And who are your parents?
Robert Wilson Compton, R.W. Compton, and Wava Jeanette Lambert.
Okay. And where were you born?
Metropolis, Illinois, at the Fisher Hospital, which is now a bed and breakfast on the river next to a casino in Metropolis, Illinois.
Nice. And you were, December 23rd, 1941.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So yeah, I just want to, talk a little bit about your early life, 0 to 5. So, if you have any memories of that? So, for what you could tell me, you were first living in Metropolis since you were probably like 3 or 4 years old, right?
0.
0 to 3.
0.
1943 sounds like you moved to Oak Ridge.
Right.
Do you have any memories from 41 to 43 at all?
It's hard to say because we went back to Metropolis when I was in the first grade, so it's hard to know. Those were my first memories. I do not remember the house we lived in or anything about 0 to 3 years old. My first memories were in Metropolis around 3 years old.
Okay. Forgot to mention that what's your brother's name?
Bob Compton.
What's his full name?
Robert Norman Compton.
And how much older was he?
3 years older.
Okay. So you moved to Oak Ridge in 1943, and I don't know if people are aware that the 1940s, there's World War II obviously going on, and Oak Ridge.
Well, let's put it in better perspective. For me, I was born on December the 23rd. My grandmother died, I think, 2 weeks later. But on December the 7th of that year, the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor.
In 41.
In 41.
Right.
So I was born just a few weeks after Pearl Harbor.
Right.
And the last week of 1941.
Right. So can you talk about how your father moved you to Oak Ridge? Why did he move you? How did you
I learned
get
a
there?
little bit from Bobby the other day in his video. Apparently he was headed onto a bus. He and all of his 7 brothers had volunteered, and he was denied. I think they must have taken a test, a mental acuity test, and he was taken off the bus or not allowed to get on the bus with his brothers, one of whom was already in the Air Force down in Mississippi, Helena, Arkansas, and he was told he was going to go, this is what Bobby says, that he was going to go to Lexington, Kentucky and learn about radios. So he didn't go. Apparently when I was like less than 1 year old, we lived in Lexington, Kentucky for months, I suppose, while he went to a school there and learned about two-way radios and stuff like that.
Had you guys had any ties to Tennessee prior to that?
None.
No family at all, right?
None.
And to be clarified, you lived in Metropolis, Illinois, which I actually lived in Southern Illinois. It's not too far, I believe, from Carbondale, on the border near Paducah, Kentucky, I believe.
Right.
So, you moved to Oak Ridge. What was your earliest memory of Oak Ridge, the city?
My earliest memories was the place that we lived. It was a flat top.
Mm-hmm.
It was probably not quite the lowest, but it was one of the lowest of the classes of houses, what are called cemesto houses, made out of cemesto board. It was a square building, usually up on stilts, because Oak Ridge was built in the valley and up a hill. So the flat tops were in the least desirable areas, and that would be the hilly areas.
That's what they call it, Oak Ridge, right?
It's a ridge.
Ridge, right.
There were so all the flat tops were on stilts. Don't know why we didn't play much underneath the house. It was kind of interesting to think that you just didn't play underneath the house.
What do you think, how old are you when your first memory was?
I do remember that when I was 3 years old, I knew I had a bad memory. That is literally my first and only memory
That's your bad
Not
memory.
the only memory of Oak Ridge, but one of the first memories of Oak Ridge. That I knew I had a bad memory, and I told myself I was outside of the little flat top, looking down the hill at a beautiful weeping willow tree. And I told myself I will remember this day for the rest of my life.
How old were you?
3.
Okay. Wow.
I told myself, you're 3 years old, you will remember this the rest of your life,
Nice.
and I have. But I couldn't tell you who a teacher was in high school, in college.
Yeah. Well,
Very bad.
people will say, I think Oak Ridge is called the city behind the fence, and so from 43 to 45, that's where the part of the place where they built the nuclear bomb. And do you have any memories of being behind a fence at all, or
I remember coming into Oak Ridge, either in or out, in a car, and fences were around, and buildings, small buildings were around, and lights were all over the place. So I assumed that was coming through the gate at night.
Okay. And so you, your first schooling was in Oak Ridge, right?
Kindergarten.
What was the first school you went to?
Linden Elementary School,
Which-
in the west end of town.
Which is cool because I went to Linden and my sister went to Linden, and yeah, that was our first school. That was my first grade school, so that's kind of cool. And what was your memories of Linden? Do you remember?
I remember that I was just there for part of kindergarten, and I remember that we had a slide that we could go down inside when we picked up our blankets to take a nap in the afternoon. That's about all I remember.
Bobby was talking about how, you know, from what he could tell me, it sounds like you guys kind of got yourself to school by yourselves.
I think we did.
How did you guys? Do you remember ever? How did you get to school? Do you remember?
Walked.
I mean,
We
did you
not
walk
have
by
a car.
yourself, or did you walk?
I would
With
imagine
other people, or-
as a kindergartner, I'd probably walk with other people.
Did your
I
mom?
don't have a memory of my brother very much. He was 3 years older, and I don't remember that he took care of me, took me to school. I don't think he did anything like that.
Did your mom walk you to school every day?
It's possible.
Okay.
I have no memory of that.
I thought that was kind of interesting because Bobby also mentioned that the bus system was really good in Oak Ridge at the
I
time.
do remember
Do you
the
remember that?
buses. Yes. I
Did you ever take the bus by yourself?
Not at that time. When we came back, when I was in the 3rd grade, I remember taking
Take it
the
by
bus
yourself.
myself.
Okay. So yeah, you sounds like you went to you went back after the war. I'm gonna say 45 briefly to Metropolis, right?
Right.
Do you have any memories of Metropolis then?
Yes, I had started kindergarten at Linden, and at some point during the year we moved to back to Metropolis, and Metropolis had no kindergarten, so I went to 1st grade at Linden. I mean at Clark Elementary School in Metropolis, and apparently I went to the 2nd grade and part of the 3rd grade, and I don't really have many memories of. I remember the 1st grade, I think. I got my first and only spanking for trying to kiss a boy or something. I'm not sure what it was.
From your dad or your mom?
No, from the school teacher.
Oh, the schools are paddling.
The school teacher paddling.
Well, I remember I am in Linden. They had a paddle there too. And this is like
Did they?
I probably went to school there in 1980, the 80s.
Yeah.
I remember kids got paddled back then. I think that's a Southern thing actually. Corporal punishment was
Yeah.
popular.
Well, that was in Metropolis.
But you got paddled.
In Metropolis once.
Metropolis, okay, so not in Oak Ridge.
Not no.
But I remember at Linden.
You never got a paddling.
No, but I remember there was a kid in our school that did in front of the class.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was a thing back then. Maybe still a
That's
thing.
mean.
Probably
That's
not.
mean. Yeah.
Kind of glad they got rid of that. You know.
Yeah.
Okay, so you lived in Metropolis when you were 5 or 6, maybe.
You know, I'd have to find my exact dates because those, I just don't know.
You don't know. Okay, so but you moved back to Oak Ridge, right?
We went to Metropolis, moved back to Oak Ridge, and the only thing I remember then is that we moved back in April of my 3rd grade, so we'd have to look and see exactly when I was in the 3rd grade.
Yeah. So how did it? So your father lost his job, or the war effort was over, and went to Metropolis. Do you remember how or why how he got to come back to Oak Ridge?
The first time, the second time?
The second time.
First time, of course, the Army or someone sent him to Oak Ridge.
No, I understand that. What I'm saying is
He got that from Bobby.
he didn't find jobs in Metropolis. How did he hear about or get
his
hooked
friend,
back up?
Dukes Fitzpatrick, who was from Metropolis, worked for the company that kind of took care of when the war was over, the army and the official government things kind of stopped. So they didn't do, I guess the AEC had taken care of all of the business of a town. And so then it was being turned over to become a real town. And Dukes worked for the company that did like
What's the company?
I think it was MSI.
Do you know his logo?
Might have had another first name, but I think it used to, when I knew it, it was Management Services Incorporated.
Okay, and do you remember what part of town it was at?
Well, it did everything.
Okay.
It did the plumbing for the city. It did the Daddy worked for two-way radios.
So he fixed radios,
He
basically.
fixed radios for the police and the
Got
fire
it.
department and
Okay.
AEC and all of that.
What was his like? What was his work schedule like? I'm interested. Like, would he leave at like her in the morning, or what? How would it work?
With normal time in the morning, I don't know, it was 7:30 or so.
Okay.
But then he came home at 4:30.
Did he have a car?
No.
Okay.
The
Good
bathroom
idea.
very much, the kitchen rather, was not in Mother and Daddy's bedroom very much that I remember. Bobby and I stayed in the same bedroom. Mother also had her sewing machine in that bedroom. And one day Bobby convinced me that I could swallow some pins.
Nice.
Have I told you this story?
No.
So I swallowed some pins, and Mother found out about it and took me to the hospital.
Like writing pens?
No,
Bobby, safety pins.
Not safety.
Clothespins.
No, pins, needles and pins, needles.
Yeah, the stuff that you pin garments with, right?
Yeah, but just
Clothespins.
no,
Not
no,
clothespins,
no,
but
it's just a pin. It's about that long. Got a top to it and go one direction.
And you pull it out, yeah.
So, and I went into a dude. It came down on top of me, and they took the X-ray.
Nice.
And saw that there were pins in there. So, I remember the bathroom then because every time I had to go to the bathroom, I was 3 years old. Every time I had to go to the bathroom, Mother would have to come in and give me a pan, and she would have to go through to see if the pins. It was just funny.
But that reminds me, yeah, I was gonna get to that later. But I remember you relating the story where you did a prank on your brother back in high school about him eating sugar instead of salt. Remember?
Oh, he was an adult.
Oh, yeah, can you relay that story just quick?
Actually, it was in Florida when Mother and Daddy lived in Florida, and we were all down there for Christmas. And, well, it couldn't have been Christmas. April, obviously, spring break, I guess. And I changed the sugar bowl to salt. He just thought that was the most horrible thing in the world.
Did you guys prank each other a lot when you were kids? No.
Bobby did not have much to do with me at all. And I was a little kid, so, I mean, I was 3 years younger. I was a girl. He had high school. I enjoyed art. I started enjoying math more. I finally I didn't take a biology class because I was afraid I'd have to cut up a frog.
Dead frog.
Didn't take a chemistry class. I think I took a physics class. I'm not sure. I think I took physics as a senior. So that was my first introduction to any science classes.
Did you go to high school with your brother, or was he out of there?
He was a
before you got
senior when I was a freshman.
Okay. Did you guys interact at all during the days at high school? No.
No.
What was your typical?
Well, one time we were active in the Methodist Youth Fellowship, and we were going somewhere with somebody, and I was really like this one guy, and we would have Sunday night dances. We would go to somebody's house, usually a kind of a sponsor of the Youth Fellowship, and dance, sock kind of dance. And we were going somewhere, and I was in the back seat with that boy, I don't remember his name, and I must have been a freshman, he was like a junior, something like that. Bobby thought he was older. And Bobby and his girlfriend were also sitting in the back seat, and the guy kissed me, and Bobby went crazy.
Yeah, that's what he told me. But he thought the guy was in college.
Right, he wasn't.
He wasn't, okay.
So that was it.
That was funny, yeah. He's a big brother looking out for his little sister.
Right.
So you got out of school, I think 59, right? 59, something like that? 18, you were 18. And what school did you go to at a high school?
University of Chattanooga.
Tennessee, Chattanooga,
I
right?
tried to figure that Daddy's salary either increased or they took Bobby off because he was graduating that coming year of the whatever they calculated to see if you were poor enough to go to Berea. And my grades were better than Bobby's, but I was not poor enough apparently to go to Berea, so I didn't get into Berea. But the guidance counselors in a
Berea was a
staff-
private school?
I think so.
So they gave you a
Yeah.
scholarship to go there?
No.
I
They
see.
gave me, when the guy, I worked as a senior in the guidance office for a 1 hour day. So 6 of us worked for 1 hour day. And by the time I found out, or shortly after I found out that I didn't get into Berea, I didn't know what I was going to do, and a scholarship arrived from the University of Chattanooga.
Oh, so it's a financial thing.
Had
Okay.
all to do with the guidance counselors.
Okay.
Suddenly it appeared.
So it sounds like for about a year, so probably 59 to 60, right?
Yeah.
And then you, why did you stop going there?
Oh, 59 to 60 and then 60 to 61.
So we did 2 years.
Went there 2
Okay.
years, right.
And then you told me you went to, you stopped and went to,
Well, I met a graduate student who was there from France. And we started dating, and he was scheduled to leave, and
you went to UT for a while, Tennessee, Knoxville, for a quarter.
I guess I did that fall.
Right.
So then in January, and I hated UT. I just didn't like it at all.
Yeah. Why didn't you consider UT automatically out of high school?
I never wanted to go to UT.
You don't go to Knoxville. You don't want to stay at home.
Right, and I didn't stay at home that quarter either.
Okay. Had anything to do? You didn't want to stay in Oak Ridge.
Didn't want to stay in Oak Ridge. Didn't want to be in Knoxville either.
Okay.
So I dropped out, and that's when I got the job at Brown Engineering in Huntsville, Alabama, through my cousin. He actually was like an adult, but he was the oldest of all of us.
What cousin was that?
Jim Ballard.
Jim Bell. So you moved to Huntsville probably in 1962,
I guess.
61,
Yeah,
and you got a job there.
got a job
I
there.
think you said January, and then you
I probably would have done really well if I'd stayed there.
you liked Huntsville?
Okay, yeah. Met a guy, an army guy there, and then he wanted to get married.
Were you living alone in Huntsville, or did you have a roommate?
I had a roommate, but I didn't know her well. It was just
Okay.
somebody who I hooked up with to have a roommate.
And then I think after Huntsville, you decided to go back to school, right?
Right.
And you
And
went
I
to
chose Memphis State.
Memphis State.
No
Memphis.
special reason, but chose Memphis State.
Yeah, what was your Memphis?
When I got there, I was sick for 2 weeks and in the hospital with mononucleosis. So I remember getting out, and I'd gone to UT, and I just hated UT. I'd taken my first calculus quarter at UT and made like a D, or C, or a D, something like that. Didn't enjoy it at all. And I enrolled, they wouldn't let me enroll in the first semester of calculus. I had to go to the second semester of calculus. So I'd done very poorly in 1 quarter, and now I had to go to the second semester.
At Memphis?
At Memphis State. And the teacher, without losing credits and all, and the teacher was very, very kind, and I was 2 weeks late going back to school. They said I should not go back to school, but I went on, I stayed there. And the professor was very kind and said to come to his office. I went back on a Monday. They had a big test on a Tuesday. It was a night class, I think, for some reason. And he taught me enough calculus to pass the test.
You remember the name?
So, I don't remember.
The summer of '63, and you met your dad, my dad, and Joseph Andrew Carpenter. He was on I think he was on an internship break
That
from
he
Virginia
just
Tech.
graduated. He graduated college.
But I couldn't figure out. Yeah, you hadn't graduated from Memphis State. What were you exactly doing in Oak Ridge?
Working that summer because I'd been to Huntsville. Let me think.
Okay, so you were planning on going back to Memphis?
Oh, yeah.
If you had met your father, you would have been back to Memphis.
Right,
Okay.
right.
So and then it sounds like,
Actually, I did go back to Memphis.
but not right away, right?
Yeah, I went back. I met Joe in the summer of '63.
Oh, right.
August the for one semester, and I lacked 6 hours, 8 hours, so it seemed not worth the money to do that, to go back for a whole semester. And I talked to the guidance counselor. They weren't guidance counselors. She's the dean of women or something like that. And she was so impressed that a woman was in physics that she said, well, wait a minute, we've got another degree here called physical science. So they had a physical science degree, and if I took the physical science degree, the 8 hours that I needed were in my major, because I was always backward. I'd started off a year in art, so when I was a sophomore, the head of the department allowed me into the second semester of the sophomore. I was a freshman. Second semester of this freshman year, I got into the second semester of physics. So the next year I had to take the first semester as a sophomore, and that would have been right on track. But then I had a whole, there was nothing to take then after that, and I had to start taking these odd, I never got a good physics track. I had to take odd, I think I took optics or something strange.
Well, that's a big jump from art to physics, don't you
Yeah,
think?
and it was backwards, you know, because I always got the second semester or something, or I had these odd classes like optics, just as, you know, one class. They were trying to be helpful, but it made for a really poor introduction to physics.
So you were probably, I think when you met Joe in '63, you were probably 22-ish, almost 22, 21,
21.
right?
Yeah.
I was kind of curious. I just thought of this. What if you hadn't met Joe that summer? Would you would have gone back to Memphis? Probably finished up.
Probably.
Where do you think you would have settled?
Still, I would have had because of those hours, because of the way I started off backwards, second semester, first semester, and all. I was messed up with my math also, because there's some things math-wise I couldn't take because it didn't have the math background. Like at UT, I had this stupid class in measurements or something like that. It was the only class I could take because it didn't have the right math background. I just started calculus, I think, when I went to UT.
Was Memphis like your first like big city that you ever lived in? Was that a pretty big city at the time?
But I was pretty much stayed around the campus. Didn't know too many people.
You think you would have? Where would you? What part of the country do you think you would have settled if you had to pick it?
Oh, I would have probably gone back to Oak Ridge.
In Tennessee.
I was rather timid.
So you like Tennessee?
It's okay.
So,
didn't hate it.
but you would have gone back,
Probably.
but not stay with your parents. It didn't sound like.
Sure.
You kind of like to be independent. It sounds like.
Not really.
Not really.
Not really. I just kind of.
If people want to, you know, I did a whole video on their anniversary and their pretty much life up till thing, and they met Joseph Andrew Carpenter in '63, June I think '63.
Right. No, August 1st.
Oh, August 1st, and they were married.
Tennis, playing
Volleyball. You sure it wasn't June of '63?
It was August.
Okay.
August of '63 I met him.
Okay.
Because I'd been in a class in UT, and it was beyond me. It was electricity and magnetism, and it was just beyond me. I didn't have the calculus for it. I didn't know. I just was.
Couldn't do it.
Couldn't do it.
So.
Dropped out. Probably got it. I assume I got an F in it because I just dropped out. It was one of those summer classes that had 2 components, so I dropped out after the first one. It was one that went all summer instead of just a quarter or whatever. It was something a little bit odd, and I just dropped out. So
I like. There's a famous Inside the Actor Studio, and they always ask the last 3 questions. Maybe I'll ask you, so maybe you can answer them. What's one profession that you haven't done that you would like to do or had wanted to do?
Oh, geez, taught like that.
I mean, what profession that you haven't done that you would want to do?
Yeah. Financial analyst.
You'd want to do that?
I can't think.
That'd be my worst. You would like to be a financial analyst?
Yeah.
Okay.
I can't think of anything else.
Well, that's the next question. What profession would you not want to do? What job?
Biologist.
See, now I thought you were a biology major.
I don't know what you got.
That's funny. The sciences, that's the only science I really like is biology. I like physics too.
Yeah.
And my worst job would be like an accountant or a financial guy. That would be my worst job.
Yeah.
I'm interested in that, but I would not want to do that.
Be an accountant. I wouldn't mind. Probably economics, but I don't think I'm smart enough for economics.
See, that'd be my worst job. just sitting caring about other people's money or taxes. No.
Yeah.
And then the last, what they ask is, yeah, if you if there is a heaven and you go to the pearly gates, what do you think God will say to you? Good.
So if there's heaven, he would probably say, "Why don't you believe in me?" I don't believe in. I don't believe there is a God.
Right. Okay.
Right.
At the pearly gates. Okay. Well,
didn't believe that at the age of 3rd grade.
Well, thanks for coming and doing this. It's great.
Thank you.
Keep it on, get on paper, and yeah, it's my birthday, December 31st, 2019. So
Yes.
we're in Lakewood, California, near Long Beach. Just make sure that's clear. All right. Thanks.